Alright, so this is Fabletop RPG, Desk of a DM, Dungeon Master, Game Master, whatever your poison is, that is what the nature and title of the piece is called. So, Desk of a DM, episode 1. We are here, I am with Jessica Giaquinto, she is my wife, and she hosts a podcast called Writer's Desk.
It is Jesse. Words are hard. It's called Jess's Writing Clubhouse.
Jess's Writing Clubhouse, and what do you do on there? I know you don't have much out right now, but what do you have?
Right now I have episodes where I talk about my book series and how they're going, along with updates about my writing process, as well as character profiles and my thoughts on the publishing industry. I'm also working on audiobooks for all of my stories.
So where can we find your podcast?
Right now you can find them on Spotify and Anchor. I'm working to get onto Apple and various other podcasting hosting sites.
Well, if you're using Anchor like we are, you'll definitely be able to do that, so cool. I figured we'd do an episode or two with Jessica. I am a great DM and storyteller. I like to think so anyway. And Jessica's run a campaign or two in quite happy glee. One of them being Eberron.
Yep.
And the other one was one-shot.
Yeah, I ran a small one-shot between you and our friend who decided that he wanted to give 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons a try.
And who ended up becoming an unarmed barbarian.
Who wanted to party.
Who was a party barbarian named Longlock the Longlocked. Which, by the way, was a fantastic little one-shot. It blew my socks off because it was just so much fun to do. And some of the best one-liners came out of that. And then you also had ideas for like a Suicide Squad-esque campaign, which never came to fruition, which was a shame because that would have just been hoo-ha, just ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm really good at thinking of the idea of the campaign, and like I've had ideas for the Suicide Squad one. I've had ideas for a modern day, kind of like the movie Onward from Disney. Where everything is set in the modern day, but you still have like magical elements, but people kind of ignore them. And then I had ideas for a completely evil campaign where you'd have like one lawful good person to kind of play the leash. So that would have been an interesting one, but nothing ever came out of those.
And so that's why you're going to be working with me here with Desk of a DM. Now I'm going to have like the other tabletop group members come in with this particular one, but this one's for me and Jessica because me and Jessica like to brainstorm ideas for stories. She's working on her books and everything, and I like working on campaigns. I'm a madman. My desktop computer looks like a madhouse in the D&D section campaign folder. What we're going to be doing here is, for Desk of a DM, we're going to be taking a book. Not necessarily for Dungeons & Dragons, but we're going to be taking a book, and we're going to, like, build a campaign, just based off the idea of the book. So, like, today we are going to be doing Dungeons & Dragons. It's a more familiar system that we both know. However, I am a little more versed in tabletop games, where Jesse is more versed in video games. So what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be probably looking over Big Eye, Small Mouth next, but we haven't really decided, but we'll figure that out. And so we'll go off of the notion of Dungeons & Dragons today, Curse of Strahd. Now, do you know anything about Curse of Strahd?
I know the overtures. I know Strahd it's vampire related, but I know, like, very little. It's not connected to Ravenloft, is it? It's, like, a completely different...
No, actually, Castle Ravenloft is in, Barovia. Wait, what is it? It's Barovia, which is actually the name of the land that we're in.
Okay, so it is actually one of the...
Yeah, so Ravenloft is actually in Barovia, who is owned by Strahd.
Okay.
And Strahd's full name is, like, Strahd von Zarovich, which is, like, pretty
It's a pretty badass name.
It's a pretty badass name, and it's also very German.
It's very German.
Very German. Yeah, it's very German. Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. Yeah. No vampire Nazis? No, this is not Helsing, no?
No.
Okay, no.
No vampire Nazis.
So we've already established this will not be a vampire Nazi game, so we're not going to be using that. So Strahd is a vampire wizard, in the mysterious realm, surrounded by a deadly fog. So Barovia is like literally Transylvania.
Okay.
I mean, almost literally Transylvania. I mean, like if you think about what Transylvania has become in the eyes of
popular culture,
it's mysterious, it's foggy as shit. There's an old castle with some weird ass vampire living in it, and their account. So yeah, it's Transylvania. It's D&D Transylvania. Now there's supposedly a fortune telling deck called the Taroka cards.
Okay.
I don't know much about them. But I'm going to assume I haven't really looked into it much. Shame on me for having the books and never looking into it, because I would never run a Curse of Strahd campaign. Too afraid of that. But maybe one day in my life sometimes, when I grow up. Grow up more as a DM. But if I really want to work Curse of Strahd, it is one of my favorite campaign settings, just based off of the idea of vampire hunting, werewolf hunting, ghosts, ghouls, the whole fell creature catalog.
So it's kind of more of a Halloween-y kind of setting. Like, this would be perfect for if you were going, well, maybe not a one-shot, because this sounds more like, more long-term than just a single Halloween.
I mean, you could definitely make it a one-shot. It says that it's 4 to 6 adventures of levels 1 to 10. I'm going to picture that depending on how far along you are in the campaign, which you could do a one-shot if you're just wanting to go up against Strahd and his bullshit. I mean, going through but let's talk about how we would build this campaign. So, now this is the 5th edition book that I have up. You are not very familiar with 5th edition, but I mean, all in all, it is literally not much different than 4th. There are a few mechanical changes. There are also, none of the daily encounter.
Yeah, like a lot of the mechanics that were put into 4th edition to make it a little bit more user-friendly for newbies like me, got taken out and reworked for 5th edition or D&D Beyond. What is the main, story overview of what you're supposed to accomplish with Curse of Strahd?
You're supposed to defeat Strahd. That's the end goal. So, but here's what I would do. So, I would want at least one ranger.
Yeah.
Almost indefinitely, and I want one cleric and one paladin.
Does the cleric, is there a particular deity that you would want the cleric to be following, or it just doesn't up to player?
Now, if there is a deity that's against the undead, clearly I would want that.
Yeah.
But I mean, clerics and paladins do the same thing, which is holy magic. That's all I want out of it.
Yeah.
So those three would be absolutely necessary. Now, since you have a cleric, they're kind of squishy. Paladins are not squishy.
Depending on how you build them, yeah, they shouldn't be squishy.
They should not be squishy. If they're squishy, you have to tell your paladin to hit the gym, because that boy too squishy. And then rangers have favorite targets and enemies, and you kind of want that if you're hunting vampires. I mean, kind of bad on you if you're not, but I mean, whatever. Okay. So there's 2 classes that are homebrews, both of them made by Matt Mercer. Gunslinger and Bloodhunter.
Ooh, that would be a good one.
So we already know Percy from
Critical Role.
From Critical Role. He's the gunslinger of the group, which me and you both looked up afterwards and were like,
this cannot be an actual class.
That is kind of wacky. And no, it's a homebrew class for his campaign. Props to Matt Mercer for rocking a new, because I'm absolutely in love with the gunslinger. It's one of my, I almost kind of want to combine it with wizard and have him start firing spells out of his gun. I would totally rock that as the arcane shooter. The arcane shooter, that I would totally make a homebrew class for that, or a subclass, whatever. Anyway, so As for and then if I was gonna pick, and now if I only had to stick with this and it says 4 to 6 adventurers, the other 6 I would do is I would want at least another spellcaster.
Yeah.
Rangers kind of spellcast depending on how you build them. Clerics are heavy spellcasters. They are. I mean, because they're healers and they use a lot of divine magic. Paladins are kind of spellcasters as well because a lot of their smites and stuff are spells. I would want an actual spellcaster though, one that's more heavily into magic, because the cleric can do close range combat. They're not supposed to, and the paladin can do close range combat. So I would want another spellcaster. I'm thinking warlock.
That'd be a good one.
Warlock with their Eldritch Blast. I would probably want the Warlock, and maybe they make a pact with an enemy of Strahd, like spiritually.
Yeah.
Because so I found out that the Warlock pact does not have to be a demon, nor does it have to be a god.
He just needs to be a sugar daddy.
Don't say it like that.
Well, that's exactly what they are. That's how they get their power. It's like, you have the cleric who is like, I'm going to be devout to my deity. You have the paladin who's like, I've been imbued with my deity's ability. And the warlock is literally like, hey, daddy. That's literally what the warlocks are.
God damn it. What was the mommy?
Okay, mommy, give me my power. But it don't matter. Mommy, daddy, whatever. It's like, as long as you are going to someone else saying, hey, give me my power, and they ask you, and they give you something for something in return, like your firstborn child, depending on what happens.
Blood contract.
Which, if you fuck them, then they have the child by default.
Lovely. Anyways, so I would definitely want a warlock, because their Eldritch Blast is like their most broken abilities. Tulok the Barbarian has done plenty of warlock builds based around Eldritch Blast, Cyclops being the best one I've seen.
Yeah, that's
and that has been just a really fun idea to play around with, just in that basis. And then if I had to pick 2 more, I want a big damage dealer. Like, okay, Rangers are great at like close range and far range. I'm going to probably want to keep my Ranger far range, or mid range, where they can kind of, go kind of long range, where they can go kind of short range if needed. I would want them to be duality like that.
I always thought of Rangers more as being like a 70-20 split. Like 70% they're good at range, like that's their main focus, and then in a clinch they can defend themselves close range. But
and then what's the other 10%? Because you said 70-20.
Oh, well. Shut up. You know what I'm talking about.
Hey, you know what? I just thought, and then 10% was spellcasting. I was like, all right, fine.
Okay, we'll go 70-30.
Okay, there you go. All right.
You know what I was talking about.
And then I would want to go fighter. I love fighters a little bit more than barbarians. Barbarians, though, okay. Again, I know I keep referencing YouTubers, but there is, so you have Tulok. I've mentioned Matt Mercer from Critical Role. The other one I'm going to mention is D&D Shorts. He has powerful builds at level 1.
Oh, yeah, I remember that guy.
All right, so powerful builds at level 1. One of them is the pole dancing barbarian. That would be my only exception to them playing a barbarian. If they go, I want a barbarian, I'm like, all right, fine, but I have a specific build for you. And if they're not down with it, I'm like, well, then you got to play the fighter. I just want the pole dancing barbarian because I want to see what they do with it. And a really creative player may very well do the whole quote-unquote pole dancing with it. And if they do that, I'm just almost likely to just give them extra XP at that point. But...
bonus points for being a hoe.
So fighter, I would prefer fighter over barbarian. Barbarian is good though. Like, I'm not saying they're not, but I would prefer the fighter. Mainly because the fighter, when you just build the fighter straight up, is literally like 9 to 12 attacks in a turn, doing way fucking over most classes. However, the barbarian does do a lot of damage with their rage and everything, so either one could work. But I would want a major damage dealer.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I have, that's 5.
I thought you mentioned like 6, so I wasn't counting.
Well, because I have cleric, I have
Ranger,
paladin, warlock.
Yeah, warlock, and then fighter, or
and then
barbarian.
fighter or barbarian. So that's 5 so far.
Okay.
Rogue. Need a skill monkey.
But why? Okay, yeah, skill monkey is a good idea.
I mean, the fighter could be technically a skill monkey, but you want like.
When are you ever gonna see a fighter like crouch down and decide to pick a fucking lock?
Crunk?
Crunk don't count. Crunk is a very special kind of stupid.
But the rogue. You need a rogue. Like, a rogue is always necessary in any campaign. And I say that because you don't want a campaign without a rogue. There's a lot of things that if you were going to go sneak around and do, the paladin and cleric certainly ain't going to go fucking do it.
Right.
The ranger doesn't specialize in it.
The ranger can still...
The fighter's there for muscle. He's not there for thought process. Muscles McBiceps is not there for the lull of it. He's there to beat face. So you need a rogue. So that would be my team. What about you?
Okay. First off, is Revenant still a class in D&D 5th edition?
No, Revenant is no longer
Damn
really
it.
there. I think there's like something like Revenant, but I don't think there is.
Okay.
But go ahead. Like let me look at it really quick.
We'll circle back to that while you look that up. But I do agree that you need a cleric. I would probably go with. First, I'd probably go with mostly a paladin of Bahamut specifically, because if you're going into a cursed place, you need like the big guns coming out hard. So I'd want to have Bahamut as the deity that the paladin follows. So lawful good paladin.
Was Revenant a class?
Yes.
I thought Revenant.
No, it was race.
Oh. Revenant.
But
yes, Revenant is a race.
Yay! Okay, so lawful good paladin of Bahamut, and then for a cleric, I would literally just make a battle healer, because with the paladin protecting everyone and keeping everything holy, basically you just need someone who can not only do damage but also do healing to help keep the party alive.
Mm-hmm.
So I would probably make a battle healer of some semblance. I'm not sure exactly what skills you would need to make that in 5th edition. I'm just going based off of my knowledge of 4th. Then I would probably go with maybe a ranger rogue combo. Like someone who's
like
special.
Multi-class.
Yeah, multi-class into a ranger rogue, because I want to be able to get the most out of both of those and keep them at a distance. They are the far-reaching ones. They're the ones that keep their distance because they can see all. And I would actually go with a sorcerer instead of a warlock.
Okay.
Mostly for, if I remember correctly, sorcerers get cantrips.
Yes, sorcerers do get cantrips.
And there's multiple cantrips that I remember being very useful against undead, because I believe there's a lot of undead in Curse of Strahd.
Well, then my question is, before you continue, now I know this is not going to matter much to you at the moment because you don't play 5th, but sorcerers actually get the origins of their magic. And one of them is divine soul sorcerer.
Okay, then that's 2 people that have divine origins that they can pull from.
Let's see. Favored by the gods. Starting at first level, divine power guards your destiny. If you fail a saving throw or miss with an attack roll, you can roll 2d4 and add it to the total, possibly changing the outcome. And then empowering healer. That's at level 6 though. But yeah, so you get a couple of extra abilities as depending on where your actual powers come from.
Yeah, I think the sorcerer would be a good match. So that's okay. On to the Revenant thing. The Revenant would probably be the sorcerer, because here's where kind of the powerhouse comes from. From everything that I remember reading when I made a Revenant character, because they worship the Raven Queen.
Which I don't know if that's the thing.
Yeah, I don't know if that's still a thing in 5th edition, but just on my knowledge from 4th edition, they would basically be resurrected from a dead body by the Raven Queen in order to fulfill a purpose. And the purpose for this would be to kill Strahd. And as soon as that happens, then this person would end up dying. And the problem is that you would end up getting very attached to this person, and it would be a cathartic moment in the story where it's like, we've done our bit, and now this person's going to die, and it's really bittersweet because it's like, they knew this going into it. They already knew what their outcome was going to be.
Alright, so, it doesn't seem like the Raven Queen's a thing in here anymore, but according to Unearthed Arcana, which is a published source that they have, having met a cruel, undeserved end, you have returned to the realm of the living, so you've just pretty much been resurrected, pretty much like the Raven Queen, but, you're, I guess, resurrected by a particular god at that point.
Okay, is there anything about, like, when the mission is completed, you're just snuffed out?
I believe so. Let me see. On a task that you left unfinished, subtrace, fill the transfer, seek revenge, or complete this mission. So, I mean, it's the whole thing is about completing the mission. So I'm guessing that pretty much, yeah, okay. When your goal is complete, you finally find rest, you die, and cannot be restored to life.
So yeah, it would still work.
Okay.
I would just add in the flavor text of the Raven Queen being involved, just because I find the Raven Queen to be a very interesting deity. It's like, she's on a line, she's literally death-ish. And it's like, just... as long as you don't, what was it that I read? It's like, don't pity the don't pity the fallen, congratulate them on finding a new path or something like that. I remember a couple of things basically talking about how it's like you shouldn't mourn them, just celebrate them, kind of thing. So, paladin, cleric, sorcerer, for some really tanky bullshit, I would probably go with a fighter, but specifically look to make them into a tank.
Like, so super tank.
Super tank. I want them to be able to take a hit and laugh it off. And basically be able to just keep on going.
So what you're saying is, give them the tough feat at level 1.
Yeah.
Dump all their points into, like, strength and constitution.
Yeah.
Like put everything at a fucking 10, and then just dump the rest of it into fucking constitution and strength.
Absolutely. And if I was to dump a stat, I would probably dump the intelligence, just because it's like, they don't need to be smart, they need to be a fucking himbo, and just take the hit.
So, you can even probably dump wisdom, too, at that point.
Yeah, probably dump wisdom as
Now,
well.
do you want them to be intimidating?
Probably. I probably want them to be pretty intimidating, or at least just intimidating enough that if he needs to actually fight something, then maybe he can get away with not doing it just by scaring the living piss out of whatever he's facing.
So then would you also want to dump dexterity then? Because dexterity is only good for, like, ranged weapons, and if you're having a fighter, are you just going to be giving him a sword and have him beat face? Because at that point, then you could probably dump 3 stats and put the rest of the stat points into, like, those 3 particular...
I'd probably end up doing that.
And I would still make con and strength. I would probably even make con, like, your first one to get to 20. Like,
yeah.
I would make that your first and foremost. I would make strength your second and charisma your last.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. But basically, he is the one that it's like, when you need to hold the line, he's the line. And everyone stands behind him and basically lobs their shots. And he goes along with my last one, which is the striker one, which is an assassin, specifically.
Okay, so a rogue.
Well, this one is specifically not for, like, sneaking around as such as, like, to steal things. It's specifically to get in amongst his target, or her targets, or whatever, and eliminate the enemy as efficiently as possible.
Okay, so the reason I said that is because the rogue, everything in 5th edition has subclasses.
Yeah.
So kind of like in 4th edition, how they have paragon paths and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This works the same way, but so what you would want the ranger to do is become a rogue thief.
Yeah.
To do the whole sneaking around, but you would want a rogue assassin to go around and murk people just based off of that.
Yeah.
So like proficiency bonuses and assassinate. So assassinate is at level third level. You are the deadliest when you get to drop on your enemies. You have advantage on attack rolls against any creature that hasn't taken a turn in the combat yet. In addition, any hit you score against a creature that is surprised is a critical hit.
Yeah.
So you want to.
Basically, I want to make Speeda sound Sonic from One Punch Man.
Right. So, that fits.
So, yeah, that's 6, I think.
So which ones did you mention?
Paladin of Bahamut, Cleric, Battle Healer, Sorcerer Revenant, Fighter, Assassin, Rogue. Okay, then.
Oh, and the Ranger.
Oh, and the Ranger.
So, yeah, 6. Okay. Alright, so now we have both of our parties.
Yarp.
Okay. So how I would build this is I would have us drop into just, taking a job outside of Barovia.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have it I would have it, the group finishing up their own mission. It's already an established group. Their whole thing is like mercenaries.
Okay.
Why are each of those characters there? That's up to them, but that's where their starting point is. However they get there before then is up to them. I would go ahead. Now, you could also do, you have one designated leader and then one person gathering people up inside the same town.
Yeah.
Before you go to Barovia. But either way, I would have them go into Barovia, and I would do the whole, you get into town, you fight vampires and werewolves first, maybe some skeletons. Based off the same level. And I would have, a couple of different paths. I would have a couple of different paths to said people. Or a couple of different paths to said castle.
Yeah.
Just based off that. In the town, though, I don't know. I'm a big fan of magic items. I would try to find a couple of things that would help them resist. Maybe some hypnosis from the vampire or other things. Just based off that. So I would probably give them a couple of side quests. Things to have them deal with, like a Frankenstein. Have them deal with a lich. I would want them, to face off against Strahd's minions.
Yeah.
People that are under him, people that he controls. That, if you want to get to the castle, you have to pass these tests. I would want to go across... Actually, I would want to go across the spectrum of movie monsters. So I'd probably do, one big werewolf boss, one big Frankenstein, a mummy. No. Okay, so I know you're laughing because you don't know, but when you think of the most terrifying creature in D&D, what's your first thought?
Werewolf.
Really?
Well, okay.
Like I said, what's your most... let's forget about that it's Curse of Strahd.
Okay.
What if it's... if you're thinking of the most terrifying thing you could find in D&D, what is it?
Honestly, beholders. Specifically, high-level beholders.
Okay.
But that's me.
Okay. It's the mummy.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
Okay. So
I need to hear this
okay, so a
explanation.
mummy in 4th edition. Now, I would probably build it very similar for 5th edition. I would have to build it under 5th edition standards. But mummies are fucking terrifying. In 3rd and 4th edition, mummies can literally not only give you a death curse, which if you don't get it healed by a paladin or something, by a god, if you fail a death saving throw from the mummy's curse, you die. There is no resurrection.
Despair on Persona 5. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so it's an instant death.
Wow.
Here's another thing that they could do. They could do stat damage.
Stat damage?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Okay, you need to explain that one to me.
Stat damage. What happens when a stat drops to 0?
You die?
Right.
the fuck?
So your stats become your HP.
Are you for real?
I am dead serious. They can do stat damage with, I think it's like 1 or 2 spells.
You lie like a rug. That is
I am not kidding.
Oh,
that is an actual
why?
thing. So, Donovan, that is his name here. Donovan has pointed out, and I had to do some research on it, and mummies are the most terrifying things in D&D. They could technically kill a Tarrasque.
Wow.
Technically. Mind you, the mummy has to be high enough level to hit the Tarrasque. But I don't think the Tarrasque would want to eat the mummy. I'm just saying. If they don't give a fuck, then they don't give a fuck.
It would basically be like eating an old cracker.
Ew. That's not cool. Don't. Fuck.
All
right.
Nom nom nom.
Ew. Anyway.
And now you've got the dry cracker in your mind, don't you?
I hate you. All right, so let's go with this whole shebang. But yeah, so I would have them even face off against a mummy. Now, granted, the mummy should be scary, but I don't want him overpowering what Strahd could do. I would make him scary though. Like, yeah, he's easy to hit, but he would have like vampirism, which is like, or leech life, whatever you want to call it, where like he'll get HP back, or maybe by hitting you he gains a point of AC. You know, like I would want to make him tough to defeat, where even after a while, the longer the fight goes on, the harder the mummy is to kill.
So you just keep bumping up his stats.
Or something.
Turn.
You know, like every single turn, something happens. I would make it, like maybe roll a d4 and bump the shit up on the mummy and make him really hard. Like, I would even do temporary stat deduction.
You'd have to be careful with that one because I could easily see players going like, this is not even worth it at this point because Strahd cannot be this bad in order to get up to that level. So you'd have to either nerf the mummy down to a point where Strahd is still a formidable threat, or you need to bump up Strahd hardcore.
Oh yeah, no, easy. I mean, like, so my whole thing is I like making a challenging fight, especially for players that are good. Now look, me and you know people that we've played with them, Donovan being one of them, Patrick being one of them, Theo to some degree of building. You have people that will flat out build a kind of busted character, and when you realize that, you're like, well, fuck, even in 5th edition standards, these are kind of broken.
Yeah.
Like, but
borderline illegal characters.
Borderline. And I mean, like, you know, all up to the DM. You know, me, I'm kind of a softy DM. I like to see my players kind of go hardcore on their characters, but that means I get to go hardcore on my monsters. So bravo to those who are brave enough to go forward in this venture. So I would give just the base idea of that fight, kind of like a hardcore tongue lashing of how gnarly that's going to be. And then Strahd, forget about it. Strahd's like king of vampires. I'm going to make him tough, and I'm going to make sure that fight is not an easy fight. Like, if you're going up against the Lord of the Castle, the Lord has to be able to stand with a fucking army, and I'm going to put everything I can in that fight. I will put werewolves, I will put fucking vampires, I will put a Frankenstein monster that's lesser than the boss. Not going to be happy going up against him, though. I will make sure that fight's fucking, like, ridiculous.
Yeah.
The reward for all this is the freedom of Barovia, and just the relief that it's all over. Maybe, like, you know, maybe they end up doing the whole what the hell is their friggin' name? Vox Machina. Maybe they do the whole Vox Machina thing and just, like, take over the castle as their new base of operations afterwards. And, you know, the Warlock ends up finding magic circles, and he's like, great, we can go wherever the fuck we want. Like, that would be great. And then you just continue from there. But that is essentially the way I would build my campaign, and I know that's very vague, But I mean, I'm not planning every single aspect of this out right now. But this is all theoretical. But that is my campaign setting for that.
Okay. So what I would do for mine is a little different from yours. I would probably have the Revenant be the only one who's like actually got a vested interest in getting rid of Strahd. Everyone else is just like, they're just going about their time. They may be in, how do you pronounce it again? The place
Cahoots?
No.
Barovia.
Barovia. They're just like chilling out in Barovia. They're all doing their own thing. And he puts up on a sign, it's like, I need adventurers, please come here. And he knows that he can't take on Strahd himself. So he basically tells the group, the kindling group, that it's like, hey, I need to kill this dude. He has a lot of money. And if you help me get to him, then I will give you an equal cut. And a whole bunch of other promises. And he does not tell them that after he kills Strahd, he's going to die, so there's no guarantee he's actually going to pay up. He's like, whatever. He'd more than likely, if we still were on the 9-point alignment scale, he'd end up being probably...
chaotic neutral.
Borderline chaotic evil, in a way.
No, chaotic neutral, definitely.
He's
not...
lawful evil. He'd be lawful evil.
Yeah.
If I had to really pinpoint where he sits.
Okay.
It's like, he wants to get done what needs to get done, but he will use evil means in order to do it.
Okay.
And he gets everyone together, and it's like, okay, let's go get into the castle. Obviously, the getting to the castle is like a big bulk of the campaign, where I would literally have like a lineup of different undead creatures, starting from minions to like low tier, mid tier, high tier, just in that first section of getting to Strahd's castle. That would be that early game where they're building up, they're learning to trust each other, they're learning about the way each other works. It would give time for character development as they get there, because obviously Strahd has like a fucking stately area. He's got acres and acres of land, so it takes a while to get there. So then when they actually get to Strahd's castle, then the hard part begins. That is where we have like even low tier, mid tier, and high tier, upper level baddies. They still have some of those like minions that keep popping up every once in a while, and I would just throw massive amounts of minions at them every game to make sure that it's like, yeah, they're easy to hit, but they swarm, and they will constantly beat up your ass.
Oh, that'd be like the fight in Eberron when you had like 40 fucking one-hit kobolds or whatever the fuck they were.
Yeah, it was just like massive amounts of
what was
creatures.
there, like 8 of us and like 40 kobolds or
Yeah.
like 40 one-shot minions? It was like, god damn.
Yeah, and
That
that
makes, like a
makes
fireball and a
that
fire
makes
scythe.
for a very hard fight, but it also makes for a very satisfying one because you're killing more often.
Yeah.
And basically, you'd go level to level throughout Strahd's castle, defeating all of these little bosses, and each one you'd fight like a low tier boss, like maybe actually like a full vampire for the low tier, and then you'd fight a maybe like, I'm not sure what I would do for mid-range boss, but I know the high-range boss would be like an Eldritch Horror kind of thing, like a low-level one.
Fuck.
And that would probably really intrigue a couple of people. It's like, why does he have this thing? Why does he have this Eldritch Horror? And it's at that Eldritch Horror that they have their moment of, it's like, is this even worth it? Is this even worth it? They might have that kind of niggling question in the back of their mind when they actually get to the castle, but for the most part, they'd be going like, okay, this treasure better be like the bomb.com. But then, right before they face off against Strahd, they find what is like his treasure room, and it is empty. Just absolutely empty. Devoid of all treasure.
Okay.
And they're like, hold up, wait a minute. You promised us money. And it's like, well, I promised you that he had money. I didn't say that how much he had. It was like, okay, we ain't doing this shit. We ain't going up against Strahd after everything we've done. We ain't... No. So they straight up abandon the Revenant. That's part of the campaign. It's like they are not going to get the reward that they were promised.
Most people probably would at that point, unless, some of them end up with, like, the character moral of, like, no, fuck this dude.
The Paladin would probably still stay with the Revenant because it's like, bad things are happening here, so we need to fix this. So the Paladin might stay, but that's still not going to be able to take on Strahd. So the Revenant and the Paladin would be the only ones going in and taking him on. And of course, they're getting their shit wiped. Just absolute wiped. And then, hopefully, this would be very much based on players' actions. I would hope that they would all decide to just go and do it. And it would be like an epic moment of them coming in and just wrecking Strahd. Just absolute wrecking.
Oh, very similar to, what's her name? Who's the cleric from Vox Machina? Pike. So it'd be the equivalent of Pike coming in during the town scene and just, like, wiping out friggin' minions, or wiping out the zombies.
Yeah, it would be very much like that. And then after they beat Strahd, they realize that the Revenant is going to be gone, and then they basically ransack the castle, and they do end up finding his treasure. But in the end, it's like, we found the treasure, but what did we lose? We lost someone who was so willing to end his own life for the greater good, and now they're gone. So, narratively, it would be very satisfying, depending on if players decide to actually follow that course of action, because we both know players like to throw a wrench in works.
Yeah, that's the equivalent of it. So if you had to put, okay, let's say if you wanted to make this a bit easier on the players, how would you do that? Like for me, I would, one, get all their weapons blessed by a priest inside the town.
Yeah.
So they would all do like an extra die of damage, divine damage. It would have to be divine damage that they do. So, like, everything would hit just a little bit harder.
Yeah.
I would want to give them... I would want them to find, like, maybe, like, like a resurrection staff, or, I would want them to find a way... Like, I would want them to find, like, little magic items that... Some of them will be way more useful than others. Some of them will be, like, not as useful, but still pretty good to have. Like rings of protection.
Mm-hmm.
A cloak of protection. It's a +1 cloak that gives you a +1 to AC and +1 to your defense stats, or saving throws. But it's like, it's better than nothing.
I think I would probably end up, because I love wondrous items. Wondrous items are some of the most creative items that you can give. Like Bag of Holding, that's really cool. What I would also do is I would give them, like, every tier that they beat when they're actually in Strahd's castle. They would probably end up getting some kind of, like, a couple of, like, wondrous items from big bosses. And they'd be, like, random. I'd have, like, a spreadsheet, and I'd just randomly pick something from that list, like, by rolling a die. And it's like, okay, it could be helpful. It could also be just a complete and utter waste. But I've always been the type of DM where it's like, if someone comes to me, it's like, hey, I have this idea, I want to run with it. It's like, okay, I'm going to make you regret that choice, but I'm going to let you have it if you can give me a good reason for it. Like, we changed your character during the Eberron campaign 3 total times.
So my character in the Eberron campaign was started out as a Warforged Weapon Master in the 4th edition, then went from Warforged Weapon Master to Warforged Artificer, then from Warforged Artificer to Human Artificer. And that's a whole story that we'll probably get into another time, but that was my character swapping, and that was just ridiculous. It was kind of fun, so.
Yeah. Basically, it's like, I'm a pretty lenient DM when it comes to, like, if you want to add a certain weapon to your character, it's like, okay, tell me why. Why do you want this character to have this weapon? What is their reasoning? If you're just saying, it's like, well, because I want it, it's like, no. You need an actual reason for wanting your character to have it, and to have a story reason why they would have it. And
you were pretty lenient with us doing that when I built my character for that too.
Especially because of the particular backstory elements that you had, because one of the items you wanted was from a completely different game, and as the way the item worked, there was no way it would actually fit with the campaign, but the idea of it is what allowed me to use it.
So the campaign item I chose is actually called the Sun Sliver. It only particularly works in one setting of 4th edition, and I don't remember. I think it's like the Sun Coast, or
it was Forgotten. It was either Eberron or Forgotten Realms.
No, it was Forgotten Realms.
And it was to beat one specific boss.
It's only to really beat one specific boss, but until I beat it, like, all it really gave me was, like, resistance to cold.
Yeah.
And, like, one other minor benefit. Like, there was really no reason for me to have it, but the story of reason why I had it was just really neat. I remember it gave me some benefit, and I can't remember what it is at this time.
It's been so long since you played Gearbox, so it's like...
Yeah, Xenon Gearbox was actually my character's name. It was.
I honestly thought you named him based off of the Borderlands developer.
No, that was not the business. That was not what I did.
But, like, I've had a couple of players who were, like, really gung-ho about what they wanted for their characters, and then there were some characters that it's like, I had no idea what to do with them because they were such, like, blank slates. I think the one that made me laugh the most was our friend Vero, who wanted to be every type of bear they could, and so they became a bugbear, werebear, bear barbarian in 4th edition.
One of the best bears.
Named Fuzzgug. Love that one. It might not be on that particular builder.
No, it would be on here. I just have to find it. I'll look for it, but go ahead.
Okay. But, yeah, like, I more deal with, like, the story beats and, like, how emotional the story is as a whole. Mostly because that's where I get my fun. That's why I'm better at building things than I am at actually running the campaign. Because I'm not very good at thinking on my feet. I will say that there were some times when it's like, crap, they just threw a wrench in my works. And then I had a lot of really interesting set pieces, but it would very much hinge on what my players chose to do about whether or not Strahd would actually end up going the way I hoped it would. Not finding it.
I just don't know where. Oh, here it is. Oh, here it is. Alright, so the Sun Sliver. Yeah, the property. The creature that possesses the Sun Sliver takes no ill effect from cold weather or gains Ice Walk. So really, I was able to resist cold weather, but because I was a Warforged, it made sense for it. I also get resist 10 cold daily. Okay, so the power in the daily was standard action effect. You and your allies within 5 squares of you regain the use of their second wind and all encounter powers. So I was strictly able to just like, everyone spends an encounter power, bam, so I can get everything back. And then, but here's the other power. The other power is that it's a standard action effect. If the artifact is used against Koliada, the Winter Witch, when she is unconscious at 0 hit points or fewer, This use destroys the Winter Witch and the Sun Sliver. So that's all it's really used for, is for that one boss. So that was it. Like that was all that you could do with it. But yeah, I thought it was a really neat item. I was like, I want this. And she goes, why? I'm like, well, I'm a Warforged. Why would I be affected by cold? And she's like,
You have a point.
Okay, well, whatever. And it was funny because the Sun Sliver, when I grabbed it, I actually ended up going into my Artificer form, so it was even funnier then. But still, like, it was that whole campaign was trial and train wreck. So, all right. So you guys have heard our take on our Curse of Strahd campaign. So this is just the first of many ideas that we're going to be throwing out. But we will definitely come back with another fun-filled idea. Go and check out Jess's Writing Club.
Writing Clubhouse.
Jesse's Writing Clubhouse, or Jess's Writing Clubhouse on Anchor and Spotify. She's going to try to get to other ones, but I mean, once she does, she'll be able to spread her writing knowledge and fun personality through for everyone. I want you guys to go and check out our YouTube channel. That is where we post videos of us playing games, and you guys will be. I know you guys have probably heard some of our other podcast episodes without a video, but on our YouTube channel, Fabletop RPG group on YouTube, we have the zombie one shot there with video. That is a fun video to watch just based off reactions, and there's other things that I've edited and done for the channel. I am pretty much the number one editor and such for the channel, but but everybody does chip in with other things. We just haven't been able to record a lot of our ideas. So you will be getting more ideas from us. A lot of us will be pitching in a little bit more now that the pandemic has pretty much resided, and our things are now, coming back to fruition. So until you guys from here next time, my name is Nick from Tabletop RPG.
And I'm Jess from Jess's Writing Clubhouse.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.